हेलो गाइस, वेलकम यू ऑल टू एआई की पाठशाला। एआई की पाठशाला आपकी अपनी पाठशाला है। एंड टुडे इज द 13th सेशन इन pandas data frame. So during the last session we have discussed about the AS method to convert the data type of a particular column or the entire column that is present in our data frame. So now today what I am going to discuss, I have given a name: data frame replace plus a glimpse at regex. So this is the thing that I am going to discuss today. So first of all, it's our usual practice. We'll run these things. To first run the first code, import pandas and import numpy, then load this nutrition dataset, read this nutrition dataset, set name as the index, and just take the first 5 rows so that read the first 5 rows. This is all. Now let's come to our main topic. So in the previous lecture, we saw that as type method would not really be our one-stop solution for converting this nutrition data frame to a purely numeric data frame. Fine. So we came to the conclusion that we would first have to separate the units from the values, and then we have to apply the as type that we have discussed in the previous session. This as type, this we have discussed in the previous session, and then we have to apply this as type to the values. So for that, we are going to use the replace method. So for doing the same thing, I'm going to use the replace method. And this method is very intuitive. It does exactly what the name implies, called the replace method. So what it does basically, it replaces this replace method, this replace method. What exactly it does? It replaces one thing with the another thing. It replaces, let me write, it replaces one thing with the another. Fine. So we will look at this method, this replace method in isolation first. Then we will start by applying it on a few chunk of our nutrition data frame. And then I will try to apply it on the whole data set. So for this one, let me select a sample of the data set from this. So take this nutrition dot, let's say ilog, and for doing the same thing, I am selecting first 6 rows, first 5 rows, or first 6 rows, you can say, including the 0. And let's say I am selecting only one column. So if you will look at this data frame, so what this is our serving underscore size. This is our first column. This is our first column. So what I am doing, I am selecting the first 6 rows and only one column. To select the only one column, what I need to write? I need to write here, pass this thing. If I will do this and if I will run my code, what will happen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 rows get selected and one column, that is my first column, the serving size, gets selected. Now, one thing that you should note here, that my serving underscore size is a column of object data type. This serving underscore size column has a data which has a data type object. You can also check it through the info method. So let me check this thing. Let's check by applying info here, dot info. If I will apply info here, what I am getting? I am getting this thing as serving underscore size, 6 null object, and the data type is object. So this is one thing that you should understand. Fine. So right now, this data, this sample, data set, this particular data set contains only strings. Because why this is a string? Because it has this G here. What is this G? This is basically a unit. G means gram. So we are writing 100, then there is a space, and then there is a Z. And J is basically the unit. Now we can do one thing. Let's go ahead and replace this unit. I want to replace this unit. If I replace this unit, then my work will be done. So it's basically, it's not only unit here, G. We have first space after, let's say 100, this integer data. I have this space, and after that space, it's G. So it's space and G. So the way the replace method works is like we have to pass an argument to the replace parameter to indicate that we want to replace. So let's first do one thing. Let's assign this inside some variable, so that because I'm going to only work on this data right now. So let's replace let's assign, I'm assigning it inside DFM. One variable I have created, DFM, and let's assign this particular thing inside this variable. Fine. After assigning this inside this variable, now I'm going to apply my replace variable, my replace method here. So let's apply this replace. So how I'm going to apply? For applying this replace variable, I have to write dfm dot then replace. And inside this, there is one parameter called to underscore replace. So what I need to replace? I need to replace to underscore replace means the thing that you want to replace. So I want to replace this 100, then space, then G. So you have to put this inside this to underscore replace parameter. And after that, there is one another parameter called value. And whatever value you want to replace this with, you have to pass that value. In this case, if you see, I want to replace this 100 space G with, let's say 100 only. So my value that I want to replace it with is 100. So I need to pass here 100. So let's pass 100 here. And now if I run this code, let's run this code and see. Can you see the resulting data frame that I am getting after this replacement doesn't have any G. So this is a new data frame where this serving underscore size sequence of values of strings, earlier this is a sequence of value of strings, has been converted to an integer sequence. At least it looks like this. By just seeing this, it looks like this. Earlier this was a string, we have checked it with this info and it was coming out to be an object, and now it seems like all the string values here get replaced with an integer value. So what we can do, we can cross check it. So how we can cross check it? How we can cross check it? So what we need to do, We will check this. Let's check this. And if I will just write here dot info and run this code, can you see? Now this serving underscore size is having integer data set int 64. And this is because we have done this replacement of this 100 underscore space g with this integer value. So now, and by the way, the to replace and value parameter, this to underscore replace and this value parameter is the first and second positional parameter here. This is always the first parameter inside this replace method. This to underscore replace and this value is this is the first parameter and this is the second parameter. And this is always the first and second parameter. This is, that is the second positional parameters is there, key and value, this to replace and value. So we can just remove that. Even we can do like this. It's not mandatory to write here to replace. If you will remove this to replace, and if you simply remove this value, so it's understood because it is a first and second positional parameter. So if you will run this code, then also it's completely fine. So we can just remove them and this method will continue to work just fine. So this is one thing. Now, but there is a bit of an issue here with what we are doing here. The way we have used this replace so far is very nitpicky. It's very choosy. Nitpicky means it's very choosy, as it depends upon exact string matching, right? Because here the exact string is getting matched, and we are replacing this exact string with this 100. So it depends upon exact string matching, right? So we are basically saying 100 space small g needs to be replaced with integer 100. But ideally what I want? Ideally, I want to replace only this g, not this entire value. Right now what I'm doing, I'm replacing this entire 100 space g with this 100. But ideally, I want to replace only this g because this g is only my problem. Because the presence of this g is making this thing as a string value. So we want to say something like, what I want to say, replace this g with nothing. That I actually want. Basically, what I want, let me write it here. What I want that, let's say dfm, sorry, I want dfm, let me write it here to make it more clear. I want dfm dot replace, and basically what I want to replace this small g, comma, with, let's say, nothing. This is my nothing. I want this thing. Fine. But let's say if this is my actual thing, because this is my actual thing that I want to replace only this small g, not the entire this thing. So same thing I'm writing here. DFM is my data frame, this data frame, not this data frame, this data frame, this data frame. DFM is my this data frame. So I want DFM to replace a small g with this blank. This is nothing. So if I run this, let's say what happens. Let's see. When I'm doing this, nothing is happening. Is this G get replaced? No, this G is not getting replaced. So this doesn't work here because the replace method, when we are using this replace method, so what this replace method do, it goes through our data frame and it notices that there is no exact value that is equal to small g, because this g is combined with this 100 and space, and this is a one value, one combined value. 100 space g is actually a one value. And when it is searching, when this replacement is going through our data frame, it notices that there is no exact value that is equal to small g, and then returns a copy of this data frame where nothing has been replaced, because it is not finding small g anywhere. So it is just returning me the same copy and where nothing has been replaced. So there is a more flexible way to deal with string replacement using the replace method. There is more flexible way. This way, it is not working this way. But there is more flexible way to deal with string replacement using this replace method, and it involves a regex. What is this regex? Let me write it here. This is a new term for you, regex, regex. So regex is basically called regular, let me write it, expressions. Fine. This is called regular expression. So this is, we have not seen, we have not yet seen this in this course, this regular expression, but we will very soon do it. So we will discuss regex in a future section on text manipulation. Then we will look at a lot of cool things with regex. But simply, I'm putting it here very simply. Regex is a short form for regular expression. And what is this regular expression? Regular expression is like a sublanguage that could be used to define text patterns. So let's write this thing also. Regular expression, regular expressions is like a sub-language, sub-language language that could, C-O-U-L-D, that could be used for to define text patterns, text patterns, P-A-T-T-E-R-N-S, patterns. Fine. Now there is a question, what is the pattern that we are targeting here? So what is this pattern that we are targeting here? So here we have three numbers followed by a space, followed by the character G. 1, 0, 0, this is a three number, which is followed by space and which is followed by the character small g. And we want to keep the number 100, we want to keep this number, and we want to get rid of this space and this small g. So let's take a quick look at how we could use a regex to do that replacement. So we will start with what we want to replace out, followed by what we want to replace it. And the only difference here is that regex parameter is set to true. Let me write it for you. So first thing that is there to do is so how do we define the string pattern that we want to replace on? So remember that we want to target a space. We want to target this space followed by the character small g. Now regex is one of those things that we could spend, you could spend entire course talking about these things. And in the future section, we will look at a lot of cool things about this regex. But for now, let's head over to quick little lab to test our patterns. So there is something called regex101.com. So which is also called lab, regex lab. So there we can able to test our string patterns. So I will first take you to this regex101.com and then we will discuss there. Let me take you there. So let's do one thing. Let's type regex101, regex, regex 101.com. Can you see when I am typing it's coming? And let's press enter key. So you will reach here. Now let me first explain you about this thing. This, can you see? Regular expression 101. This is a regex101.com and it's a really fancy and really handy way to test string regex, string patterns against test strings. So let's select Python here. Can you see? It's, you can select different programming languages or different frameworks which you are working. So I'm selecting here Python. Let's select Python here. Because there are different flavors of regex. So let's say our text is 100 space G. Let's see, let's say our text is 100 and then space and then this G. Fine. And let's say I'm planning to separate this 100 from this space and G. So what we have to do here, let's put some more 100 space G, one more 100 space Z. Let's do this thing. So our text here is 100, then space, and then G, and we are planning on using regex to isolate the space, this space and my G part. So one way to select white space in regex is, one way to select this white space in regex is, you can, if you go here and if you type backslash, backward slash, this backslash as I'm typing, and then backslash followed by the character small s. If you simply type backslash small s, you can see, can you see? This is known as, this is also known as meta sequence. And as the, can you see here, matches any white space character equivalent to this. So as soon as I have typed this backslash small s, you have, can you see my white space got selected and highlighted by this blue color. So as the description indicates, it matches the white space character. You can see here white space is selected by this blue color, highlighted by this blue color, and it gets selected. It looks cool now. Notice how our regex environment reacts dynamically and even has a explanation here on the right. And the sequence of characters that is matched is highlighted in blue here, which is pretty awesome. So far we are matching space here. Fine, which is great. Now the only thing remaining is the character small g, which stands for grants. So let's add z to our pattern. So if I will simply type small g here, and you can see we are now matching the space and the g both. Earlier, if you will remove this small g, you will see you are matching only this space. Now, if you write here small g, you can see this space and g and this g, small g, both get matched. So using this sort pattern, we managed to specifically isolate the part of the string that we want to get replaced. In other words, you can say space followed by g. So now I'm going to copy this pattern. So I'm going to select and copy this, and I'm going to head back to my notebook where I will pass it into the string that to the pattern that we want to replace out. So let's copy it from here, copy to clipboard. It is, so I have copied this thing, and now let's move it to our notebook. So now I have moved. What I have to do, dfm dot replace, and my first thing I was passing here small z. So instead of this small z, whatever pattern, this regex pattern that I have seen here, so I will copy that pattern. So this is the pattern that this is coming. Okay, let's remove this. So this string pattern I have copied from there, and I want the value to be replaced. I want to replace this string pattern, this space, and this g with nothing. So in the value part, I will keep it empty because I do not want any value there. Thereafter, what I will do, I will write my regex parameter. This regex parameter, I will make it true. This is the only thing that I need to do. I'm making you understand. See, the difference here is, here I have this backslash and a small g, which is a regex pattern, a string pattern for this thing, space g, and I want to replace this thing with nothing. So here I am passing nothing here, and then I am making this regex parameter to be true. Now, if you run this code, let's see what happens. Can you see? Now I am getting this 100. In the serving underscore size, I am getting only 100. These thing got replaced, space, and g get replaced with nothing. So I am getting this thing. Now, since I need to do one thing more here, I have to, because the data type, if you will check, still the data type will not be the int. So you need to change the data type as ASCYPE type here and make it int, int. Fine. If you will do this, now the data type will become int. Now, if you, let's say, check the dot info of this thing, let's check this, you will get dot info. So you will get sorry, dot info, you will get int 64. Can you see? Now this is my int 64. Fine. So now the very important question that arises here, but are we ready to scale this up to the entire data frame? Because just for the experiment purpose and just for understanding, I have used this thing only on a portion of the data set or on a sample of the data set that I have collected here, on a sample data set. Fine, on this, only this data set, sample data set. Now the question is, are we ready to scale this up to the entire data frame? So let's take a quick look. I will say, let's add, let's write nutrition dot head, and let's say, let's take 10 observations, first 10 observations I'm taking. Now the thing is that, let's add few code cells here. Fine. Now, the replacement strategy we have here, the replacement strategy that we have used here will not work for all the columns. If you will look at all the columns, this replacement strategy will not work for all the columns, because so far we have defined only one pattern. And what is that pattern? Because I have defined only one pattern, that is the space followed by G. This was the only pattern we have defined so far. But notice that some columns, even if you look at this column is having a space and then G. But let's say if you will look at this total underscore fat column here, there is no space. So you have to define a separate pattern for this column. Some columns is having milligram, mcg. Some column is having different, can you see here, gram is there. Some column is mg is there. So, and some columns do not have a space at all. So we have to define each one of the patterns here. Like here, if you see space followed by mcg, here there is mg, here there is no space and mg. So for different columns, you have to define different parameters. For those cases, our pattern would fail. We are not able to do that if I will use this strategy. So this strategy would fail here. So it looks like we have to specify more patterns to cover the other units. But I am telling you, there are better ways to do this. When we start playing with text, we will see several other ways to handle similar situations. One approach is to simply use regex to replace away any part of the string that is not numeric. This will include, that would capture all these units. Because we are saying take everything that is not numeric. Here what my approach is right now, we are saying take everything that is not numeric and remove it from the string. That is what we are telling. And perhaps that approach is not the best. And this approach is perhaps is not the best approach in our context, because it's not a good idea to completely get rid of our units after all. I think it would be a best, in fact, if we merge them into our column names. Let's say here there is a serving underscore size. So we can say serving underscore size underscore G. Calories do not have any units, fine. Total underscore fat underscore G. Saturated fat underscore G. Cholesterol underscore mg. So if we will do it like, if we will replace, if we will make this unit as a part of my column name, so in this way, we will also not forget the identity of the column. So we know that which column is representing which unit, what is the unit of that particular column. And simultaneously, we should get rid of all the units inside that column. Fine. So this is one approach, and I think that's a better approach. So in that way, we are not losing the information. We are simply regrouping it in a manner that makes more sense of our analysis. So that's all for the day. In the next session, we will get started on this process because we have quite a lot of things to do. So let's now save this and commit our code. So what we have discussed today, replace with regex. Replace with regex. So commit this code. Yes. Sync changes. Okay. Fine. So that's all for the day. Those of you who are watching the recorded session, I request you to keep commenting, keep suggesting. And if you really like the videos, try to share it with your friends who are willing to learn these things. And if you guys are having any doubts, you can put it in the comment section of the video. You can also subscribe my Telegram channel. From there, you can get a free live session joining link, and you can also attend my free live sessions. Thanks all. Take care. God bless you. Keep learning. Keep enjoying.